Howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. Today, it's a strategy session. We're going to be talking about planning the perfect marketing promotion. Before we get too far in, for those of you who are new to Workshop Wednesday, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. You can find our content and courses on some platforms like Digital Marketers, CXL Institute, and Social Media Examiner, and of course, all of the different courses and options that we have available on our own site at measurementmarketing.io. Now, our main claim to fame here is helping marketers, agencies, and marketing teams try to figure out what the numbers are and ultimately how to grow those numbers. And primarily, we do that through things like analytics and Tag Manager and Data Studio and things like Facebook Analytics. And we use the measurement marketing framework to do it, which is really 5 key things. It's the idea of planning, which we're going to talk about today. So planning out how to do promotions in this case. Then once you've got your plan, then you build, and that's where you measure things. So maybe it's Tag Manager setups or analytics setups, but you're actually getting the information you need to see if you're, to be able to determine if you're achieving your goals or not. Then there's the reporting where we're going to show you this today too. In fact, I'm going to give you a free tool that you can use. Then there's the forecasting where you actually forecast the results based on the information that you're seeing in your reports. And then ultimately you can now optimize because you're going to see what's working and what's not. So that's how this whole thing sort of comes together. And the reason we cover this during all of our trainings is to help you put today's training into context. So it's actually going to hit both planning and reporting. And as you will see, a little bit of forecasting as well. So you can optimize. It's going to cover a lot. So, all right, here we go. Speaking of a lot, one thing is what we're trying to get, because with numbers, it can get a little overwhelming a little fast, especially if it's a new concept. So even if you are planned out marketing promotions before, I promise you have never planned it out like this. So I'm going to show you something a little different. We're going to give you access to a tool that you can use. So I'm going to kind of give you the overall strategy first. Then I'm going to walk you through the tool. Then you're actually going to get a link to the tool, so you can have access to it directly. But it is different. So take it for what it is. Just if it's just the idea of kind of breaking it down, how we break it down, then do that if that's your one thing. And then you come back and watch this. We're going to make this particular workshop publicly available. But just practice that one thing. If you've already broken down things, you're kind of comfortable with that, but it's about measuring how we measure, then practice that. And you come back and then, once you get that skill down, then you come back and build it back out because there's a lot to this. So with that, let's go ahead and move on, shall we? Strategy session, planning the perfect marketing promotion. Now, we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to start with the basics because this is a strategy session. We're going to talk about strategy first and foremost. Then we'll get into the nitty gritty, and I'm going to show you a tool that you can use to actually start implementing this. Now, when you are, as a company owner or manager, your job is in the leadership arena here as somebody in charge of the strategy. Your job is to achieve certain goals for the year. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about building promotional plans to achieve those. And personally, what I recommend is quarterly. So this is the quarterly promotion. Let me get that typed in here. So there's our quarterly promotion. And the reason that I like quarterly is not just because it fits well, though it obviously does. It's that concept of the quarterly promotion itself, 13 weeks. And I like 13 because it happens to be my lucky number. It fits easily. 4 of them fit easily into the year, which obviously fits, right? Just that concept. But they're easier to manage this way because there's some symmetry here. So in the quarterlies, we start with, and this is how you do it. You don't try to get everything done in a week. You try to get it done for the year. So you'll have your quarterly focus, right? Kind of consider like your focus priority there. And then you've got a nice month. Now, some months, and this is going to matter in a second, and you'll see why. Some months have 4 weeks, some months have 5 weeks, and you actually break down results based on that. And I know initially this seems like a lot. It won't be. I'll show you why in just a moment here. I think we can actually, based on Lucidchart, do a little rotation. There we go. So let's pretend this is, actually, I bet you I can do this. I love Lucidchart. Look at that. If anybody from Lucidchart is watching, you can see how much I like this. So here we've got a little 4-week month. And of course here, you might have a month with 5 and et cetera, et cetera. But this is basically the overall breakdown first. I want to talk about this. So we have the overall goals for the company. This is exactly what we do as I manage and grow measurementmarketing.io. So we've got our overall goals for the company we're wanting to achieve. By product, so in our case, we'll do it for Measurement Marketing Academy or for Win Monthly Pass or for Win Packs or Win Courses. Those are all separate products for us. So what we do is we have goals for the year for those products. We have promotions for those products for the quarter, right? Kind of our focused quarterly promotion. And then we have what are we doing per month, where each of the months in the quarter, because every quarter has 3 months. So what are we doing in the month itself to support that quarterly promotion, to support the company goal? Then we break it down to what are we achieving this week that supports this month, that supports this quarter, to support the year. Now, obviously, as you go through here, some weeks are going to work, some weeks are not, some months are going to work, some months are going to not. Some quarterly promotions probably may not be exactly how you thought they were going to be at the end of the quarter when you planned them in the beginning, but you'll adjust as you go. And I'm going to show you a tool where you can get all this and use this and follow along and build this on your own. But it's important to understand the structure here. So the idea is you've got this big, giant direction of where you're headed. You have milestones, which are these quarterly promotions for each individual product. Now, if you're an agency and you're like, well, I don't really have products, it's the same product, but I have different clients, do that and say, okay, here's what we're going to do for the quarterly promotion for this client. Our job is to get them from this level to this level, maybe in terms of revenue if you're a traffic agency or something along those lines. Then again, how are you going to do that by month, broken down by month, and then again, broken down by week? Now, this in and of itself, I think everybody talks about, right? This is the thing that if you just learn about how to plan out anything, everybody's going to say, start with something big, break it into something small, then smaller, then smaller. So hopefully this is somewhat repeated. Now, if it is the first time, awesome, because it's going to be super useful to you. But this is not the secret sauce. The secret sauce is in the tool I'm about to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first, I'm going to pull up this tool and I'm going to walk through it. Then I'm going to give you a link to go through it because I don't want you playing with it while you're watching me do it. So that's the only reason that I'm going to kind of two-step that. So the idea here, let me just pull this up. Okay, so what we're going to do is show you, and I want to walk through this because it's a lot. And this will be subject to change. So it may not look exactly how it looks today, or how it looks today, I should say, is maybe not exactly how it's going to look when it pulls up, when you pull this up, because I'm going to make this easier and easier to use. But I was excited about this. And I want to get it out because the recording, this is recording in January of 2020. So it's kind of earlier in the year. And I wanted you to have an opportunity to start using it sooner than later. So here's how we do this by product. So now what I've broken down, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit first so you can kind of see the overall viewpoint. Now, again, we talked about this concept of like, you've got the overall goals for the year and then quarterlies, blah, blah, blah. This stuff right here, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road for us. So all of this stuff is what we're actually focusing on, right? This is where the heavy lifting occurs. This is where the thinking and the processing occurs. Down here is where the action occurs. So what we're going to do is in this planner here, I've got it broken down by client or product, right? So we use products. And so we have different categories of products. We have coaching products. We have done for you products. We've got the digital sort of do-it-yourself level products. And so we have categories, and with each of those categories, then we have these different product names. So that's what we'll do. Again, if you're an agency, maybe you don't do that. Maybe you have different clients that you're bringing on board. Maybe you don't even have clients or you want to onboard clients. You can still do that, right? And have a plan for onboarding a new client or something along those lines, or acquiring a new client. Either way, this tool is going to be useful for you. So where it starts is up top. And you're just literally going to answer this question. What's the plan for this quarter? Like, what are you trying to achieve for this product or client? Okay, what's the goal? And ideally, it's a measurable goal. So you want something to say, okay, we're going from here to here. So the goal is, to achieve 6 new, and I'm going to pretend this is just a client. So I'm going to change this briefly here and then switch it back. Actually, you know what? I am going to do that. So I'm going to mess with the template just a little bit, but we'll revert. So I'm going to say this is, my client. So that's going to be our client. So then what's the plan for the client? Well, let's assume that the client is billing maybe $5,000 in ad spend, and it's, bill the client to, $5K in ad spend, or sorry, $50,000. Why not? Let's go big. $50,000 in ad spend. I know that's not realistic, but let's have some fun. Okay, so now we've got, I'm going to build the client to $50,000 in ad spend. They're currently at 5. So what's the plan for this month? So we're going to get the client from 5 to 10, let's say. And then here we're going to get the client from 10 to 20. And then here we're going to, get the client from 20 to 50. Okay, so let's just pretend that's kind of what our general plans are. Now, at this particular point, doesn't require a lot of thought. This is not intricate details, because going through this process will force you to put down the details. So we sort of start with like, here's my overall goal. Here's kind of what I want to be able to do. Now, right away, even in this process, when you get it into the per month thing, you might say, man, 50,000, I don't know if I can do 50,000. If I can probably double, I can probably double again. I don't know if I can get 50,000, but maybe I could get them to like 30,000, right? Maybe you set the comfort level. When you go, okay, well, if I can't do that, then obviously I can't do this. So maybe you reduce it down and say, okay, I'm gonna do 30,000. That just seems more realistic. So already you're gonna see things like that'll occur. But the magic is starting to come up with this. So now you go, okay, what's the plan for the week? How am I gonna get them from 5 to 10? So here it might be, improve targeting, let's say audience definitions. Now, this might be that you are playing with, and I'm going to zoom in at this point, so make it a little easier to read for you. Okay, so now I've zoomed in a little bit just to make it easier to read here. But improving the audience definition. So what is that coming from? It's coming from your pixel setups. So maybe you're enhancing your build and tag manager to make sure that your audiences, you can see the introduced people, the people that have been introduced to the brand, and you can see them very clearly and very separately from those who are interested in your brand, very differently than those who have invested in your brand already, right? The people who are putting in their money and buying your products and services. So maybe that's, something that you're doing for this particular client. So you're improving the definitions, and then you're, testing, testing the audience to make sure that they're testing, I'm going to call it the pipeline. So maybe you're just doing some sort of pipeline management. And again, this is not to be a copy and paste plan, but just to kind of give you the idea. Then at here, spend ramped up, spend to 7K. And then, here, this should be, spend at 10K is what we were thinking it's going to be. So you can keep it, again, kind of basic, right? Not rocket science right now, but a little bit of secret sauce in that you're starting to get a little more like, how am I going to get this done? With what part of the actions can I take this week? The results can I get this week to get this done for the month, to get this done for the quarter, so that ultimately you achieve your annual goals for the particular client or product. So you have that. Now, this in and of itself, if you just do this, you're already going to be further ahead of the game. But this is super important. This is a built-in journal. So what'll happen is you might say, okay, I'm improving my audience definitions, and what worked, what didn't. So maybe you never got around to it, right? That happens. And I would put this in here, like never got around to it. Move to next week. So maybe that didn't happen. So what happens is week after week, once you kind of have your plan in place, you actually go through and you're going to use this and say, okay, well, I'm improving my definitions. That didn't happen. So I have to bump all of this over. So I'm just basically going to move this out a week. I'm going to move this out a week, and I'm just copying and pasting here, move this out a week. And now I have to put this in here. This is my new plan. So I'm walking into this next week with, okay, now I really have to improve definitions. Now, if that did work, right? Got audiences set up, got them set up, monitoring, moving to testing phase, right? So like all things are good. You don't need to put 18 paragraphs of stuff back here. It's just a little mental journal, what worked and what didn't for this week, so you can think about it, because it forces your brain to process things. So just doing this part of this, if that's all you get out of it, I want to kind of phase this in, because not all of you are going to be ready for everything that this has, and I wouldn't try to do everything from ground zero. First step, though, plan out promotions. So get the idea of this annual goal. Here's my quarterly. Here's the monthly that's going to feed the quarter. Here's the weekly that's going to feed the monthly. It's going to feed the quarter. Here's what worked, what didn't, and what's next, based on the actual results from that week. So here's kind of like what I want going into the week, and here's what actually happened by the end of the week. So normally the way that I do this is I update these on Mondays for the prior weeks. So if it's a Monday right here, I'm looking back at this intention saying, it'd be a Monday, of like the week of the 26th. I would actually fill this out, right? And then say, okay, did I actually hit the Tyson pipeline, even though I'm in this week already? But I'm filling this out saying what worked, what didn't. And I do it on Mondays because I might need to change this plan based on what happened in this week. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And I know it takes a little bit of time, but practice it, and just forcing your brain to go through this, even if it's rough and it's wobbly at first, which it will be in the beginning if you've never done this, then you get better, and then you get better, and then you get better. Just like when you learn how to paint, or I assume, because I absolutely have no idea how to paint, but if I was learning how to paint, I would never expect day one to paint the Mona Lisa or a masterpiece. I would expect stick figures. And then the next day, I would expect stick figures with maybe some shadows, right? And I would practice perspective and just line drawing and just get basic steps. And I would never expect or judge myself as bad if I couldn't paint the Mona Lisa after a week or two of this. But with enough time and enough energy and enough focus in it, you will get to that level. So start with basics, start wobbly, get used to it, and don't worry about being perfect. Just get good enough to get going, and then you come back and you make it better later on. I promise you, it won't take more than a few quarters, and you'll be up and running pretty quickly. And probably within the same quarter if you do this every week. That's the trick. You got to stay consistent. Now, if you want to level up, and I suggest that you do when you are ready, that's what this part is. And this is the other this is definitely the secret sauce. And this is the part I'm going to make a little easier to get through because I know it's not super intuitive right now. That's why I wanted to walk you through it. So the way that this works is based on, so you've got these ideas of here's the things you're trying to achieve, right, to get done. And in this case, I've kind of chosen some poor goals because it's about client stuff. But I'm going to say this is about acquisition. So let's turn this into, acquiring new clients. And that's where this really comes in. So when you're actually trying to get new clients or grow something. So in this case, I'm going to say the definitions don't matter. I'm going to say we need to close 3 sales. Okay, let's pretend that was my goal, right? Forget about all this other stuff for now. We're changing the plans. So let's pretend it was close 3 sales for the product or client that we've got. Well, how do we do that? Do we just say, okay, well, the goal is 3 sales and we're done? And then no, of course not, because there's no plan. That's just an intention, which is not bad. At least you have that. But without a solid plan behind it, then, you're not really going to get there. So maybe you think to yourself, okay, well, I got to set up a bunch of phone calls to get 3 sales. Okay, that's great. How many phone calls? And this is where the trick comes in. So how many and how many and how many? And you have to keep thinking about that because at this point, we're going to actually build the plan, the step-by-step plan, so that you can achieve these 3 sales. So now it's not just, okay, what the results are, but it's how. Right? And at measurementmarketing.io, we talk a lot about results and how. And so that's what we're going to measure here. So yes, the result is 3 sales. How are we going to do that? So in this case, we say, okay, well, how many people do I have to ask in order for them to consider buying? So maybe I've got to ask, and again, it depends upon your model and everything else, but let's pretend this is a digital product. Well, you might have to ask, let's say 100 people. So 100 people have to see that offer page or see that sales page, whatever it is. Let's assume, again, it might be a digital product. I'm going to change this to my digital product. So I've got, okay, I'm going to ask 100 people to do my, to buy my digital product through sending traffic, paid ads, email, whatever. Now, what percentage of those people, and this is the projection phase we're doing here. So we're just putting in the projection. Actually, I totally did that in the wrong spot. This is why I have to fix this. But the concept will be the same. So it's projection of 100. So then of those 100, how many do you think would actually consider? I'll tell you, roughly 10%. Would actually consider from lander to cart. That's what we see as numbers. So roughly 10% of those people are going to lander to cart. And then you say, okay, that brings us to 10 people. See that? So it's 100 divided by 10. And I realize there's a lot of numbers. So if you're not a spreadsheet person, that's okay. But 100 people starting, 10% of them actually are going to be projected to the next stage. That leaves us with 10. Then how many of those actually purchase? Well, let's say 70% purchase. Okay, so that's actually probably not that. We'll say 30%. I'm an opposite. So 70% abandoned, which means 30% make it through. There's 3 people. So now I know not just, I'm going to close 3 sales this week. Here's how I'm going to close 3 sales this week. I'm going to get 100 people to see the offer page. Of those, 10 people will actually consider, maybe see the cart page is how we might measure that. And then of those, here's how many sales we're going to get. 3 sales. So this is how this is designed to work. But what's important here is I'm not just saying I'm going to get 3 sales. I'm saying here's how I'm going to get 3 sales. And so from a measurement perspective, what are we measuring? We're not measuring for the result. We are measuring the activities that will lead to the result. And that's a big difference. So down here, you might say, okay, well, how much is your sale? Let's pretend it's a $1,000 product. So $1,000 in sale, or $1,000 product, average order volume, right? It's an average cart value. So let's say it's $1,000. Well, now I've got 3 sales that I've made. So 3 sales times $1,000, I'm now projecting revenue out here. So this helps us to build out what projected revenue might be. So I've got this potential $3,000. Now, here's another little step to this little secret sauce part. This little part here, this little confidence factor, this is your gut having a chance to play a little bit. And you get to say, okay, how confident am I really that this is going to happen? And you've probably done this before. I know I have, certainly, is you build a budget, quote unquote. You have a goal, right? You set your intentions and you say, oh, I'm going to achieve this. And then you kind of go like, there's a little voice in your head that goes, really? Like, and you're like, yeah, I'm optimistic. I can make it happen. And you're like, and that's it. That's all you sort of give it. But that voice needs to be heard. So this confidence factor is your voice, is that little voice going, okay, I'm going to call some BS here. I don't think you're actually going to achieve 100 people. You've never done that before. You can barely crack 20. So I say there's a 40% chance you're actually going to get that. So what happens is there's a 40% chance. That's how much confidence you have in this plan, right? Which is basically how many people are going to start. Of those, what percentage are going to make it to the next step, and of those, what percentage are going to make it to the next step at this amount, right? And we'll buy at this amount. So that's kind of what your plan is. So this all of a sudden takes that $3,000 and says, well, your likely result, which is what this is, your likely result is actually $1,200. Now, if you're just trying to make $1,000 for this particular week, awesome. I'd say you have a solid plan and you'll most likely knock it out of the park. Right? This is how you build a promotion. All these activities will lead to this, to the result. But in this case, we wanted 3 sales. So that's not going to work. So I have different options here. I can either improve the plan where I go, you know what? I've got affiliates I can mail. I've got emails I can mail. I can do a bunch of paid Facebook. I'm going to triple my spend and I'm going to definitely hit these 100. So now I'm a little more certain. I'm like 90% certain this is going to work and I'm going to probably close my 3 sales. But it's not changing this to make the number work. It's actually thinking it through and saying, no, this is actually a solid plan. Or it's, if I go back to this 40% and say, okay, well, if I can't change this, what can I change here? Maybe I have to, I can open up a bunch of traffic sources and I get 500 people to see that page. Maybe I just have to think out of the box and get a bunch more traffic coming through. In that case, I might close as much as 15 sales, right? Which 40% would bring me to $6,000. And maybe that, again, I wanted $3,000 in sales. So here it's like, better than average chance. I'm going to be successful. Maybe it's, we take this back to 100 and we say, well, yeah, maybe I won't close as many sales, but I think I can raise the rates a little bit of my pricing. So I get to 1,800, which is closer to my original $3,000 that I wanted, right? When I was planning to close 3 sales. So you can start to actually pull some levers here and start planning this out. Now, I will tell you, we are a bit insane here because I really dig this stuff. And what we do at measuremarketing.io is we actually have this filled out for the entire year. And this is as of this recording, it's right toward the end of January, but as of December of last year, we had this done for the entire year. So I have all of these, and this is a template built for the entire year, week over week, so that it all sort of feeds into it, and you can make a copy of it and use it however you want. Again, the ease of this will be a lot easier to use. This is a fairly new tool for us, but I wanted to get it out, and I'm a real big fan of let's get good enough to get going. We'll come back and make it better later. But that will be happening very quickly. But as we go through, we have everything done, plans throughout the entire year. So I know basically how much revenue I'm going to generate by the end of the year, my likely revenue. Now, and I also know what potential revenue. So if everything comes in exactly as I thought it was going to, I know my potential number, but really I'm managing to this likely number. And so I know what that's going to look like. I know how I'm going to achieve that because I have plans for each and every week as I go through. And then each and every week as I get actual data, right, as the week goes by, I actually adjust this and say, okay, well, it turns out, I'm going to pretend we're going to plan out January here in the little fake numbers. So I'm going to pretend that this is what our plan was going across. So I'm just copying and pasting these numbers across. And I'm saying, okay, we were pretty sure this whole plan was going to work for January. Let's just say it's 80%. And we thought, okay, here's how much revenue we're going to bring in at this particular price point. This is what we settled on. We were just going to knock it out of the park. Well, then let's say the first week of January comes through and the actual number of asks. Now, where would I get this? If it's a digital product, I'm looking at Google Analytics. How many page views did I have? Okay, well, I actually had 25 page views. Now, how many of those actually saw the cart? Well, maybe 3 people saw the cart. So I can say, okay, well, I was projecting, 10% of the people coming through, but only 2.5 came through. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, I had 3. So 3 of those came through. And then of those, how many people made a sale? Well, maybe 1 of those. So I might say instead of, it was roughly 30% is what I thought was coming through, but 1, so it's a projected point. Now I'm going to say, okay, 1 sale came through. So here I've got the actual result. What did the sale? It was sale amount. The actual price was actually $1,500. And here you can see $1,500. So now I have my actual and my projected for that week. Here's what I thought was going to happen. Here's what actually did happen. And so I could say I thought I was going to have as much as 4,500. I was probably going to end up 3,600, but I hit 15. That's pretty far off. So now what do I do with these weeks? I immediately go, okay, wow, 125, I was way off. So now I'm projecting we're going to regroup a little bit. I'm going to change the plan. I don't, I know I can get more than 25. Maybe I would do 40, right? So maybe we do 40 here. And then I've got maybe 60 here, and then maybe I've got 80 here. And that's how I'm building traffic now because I was just so far off. So then I have my new numbers, and I'm starting to see my numbers change here. So I can know, okay, well, now I'm between, 10 and 12 for the month, which is okay. Maybe that's what I wanted to be, right? And I can go through. And again, on week 2, when I actually get the real information, I might say, yeah, maybe I hit, 45 actually came through. And then I'm going to carry these over as well, just so we can kind of see what the initial projections were. So maybe it said, okay, well, yeah, and you expected that 5 people, 4.5 were going to consider it, and say, well, it was close. It was 4 considered. And it said, okay, well, then of those, 1 should have closed. And you actually know I got 2 closed, which is great, right? So now I've got a little difference. Did they close at 1,500? Yes, they did. So now I can see, okay, I was projecting between 1,400 and 1,800, but I got $3,000, right? So now I'm 4,500 in between 4,500 to where I needed to be, which is between 10 and 12. And then I'm just going to fake this really quickly. Let's say we did 100 here, and we got actual results coming through. So maybe 6 bought here, maybe 8 bought here. We'll put in both were $1,500 in sales. So the sales came in as expected. Maybe you had 2 and we had 4. Okay. So now when I was planning between at least my likely result was 10,000, right? Could be as much as 12,6. I ended up with 13,5, right? Beat both. But the reason that you would even get here is because every week you're looking at your activities, not your results necessarily, right? The results part doesn't necessarily matter. Like I get that's what your goal is initially, is that you're like, I want to achieve this result. But the result is a symptom of the system you're using. This is the system. So all of this stuff, this is the guts of the operation, and this is what you can actually measure. You can measure activities. If you have the right activities, they will follow a pattern. Right? Remember, truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. They will follow a pattern that will produce a reliable result that you can start to look at and say, okay, I can now predict this result. That's what makes it reliable, is that you can start predicting and forecasting stuff. And all of a sudden you start achieving budgets. You start making budgets. And so week over week, again, you're going to not miss things. You're going to overachieve things. But at the end of the month, you're going to end up where you need to be. And that's because you manage activities here. So in this case, get the number of page views I need to get so that naturally the right number of people consider, so that naturally the right number of people buy. Maybe you achieved 100, but nobody actually went to the cart page. You would then know, okay, that's totally broken. Let's go figure out why isn't anybody going to the cart page? Maybe the button was broken, right? Could be something simple. But you would know where to look because you would see in the numbers something's not right. But either way, these activities start telling a story of how you are achieving the results that you are achieving. Right? It tells a story of how the results are achieving it week after week after week. Imagine doing this for 52 times a week, which it sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's about 30 minutes is all it takes me. And I do this for roughly 5 categories of products, of which there are 3 or 4 products in each category. It takes me 30 minutes. So admittedly, I'm fast at this because I do it a lot, but I do a lot more than you probably will. So taking 30 minutes on a Monday morning to sort of say, okay, I'm going to recap this really quickly. Again, don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry if half of this made sense, just do the part that made sense to you. But the concept is practice it, put it into practice, be okay in the beginning. Be even a little bad in the beginning. That's totally fine. Because if you're making progress, you're further ahead. Even if it's a little progress, even the fact that you're doing this at all, even the thought that you can plan this stuff out is progress. So practice what you can and get better and better and better. Don't judge yourself. I would literally take a quarter. I would take 13 weeks and just practice it and get used to the habit of it. And then you'll get better and you'll get better and you'll get better. And of course, you can ask our instructors at any point in time if you need help on this and want to get some more guidance on it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. Now, what I didn't have a chance to talk about, but it is also back here, is all of this information. This is really sort of made for the business planning from an owner or a top management level. But if you click over here to step number 2, you will notice this actually starts building out. Here's where you are. Here's where your likelihood was. Here's where your funnel was. Here's how much you have. Here's what your forecasts are. Here's your summary sheets. And it also has expenses. And it also has profit and loss statements. So all of this stuff is also contained in here. Too much for us to go into today, but not important that you even use it. You don't even have to use this tab. You can come in and delete this tab if you want. My main goal for you, even if you deleted all of this, and you can, again, come in here, go to File, you'll make a copy, and then you can edit it however you want. But even if you wanted to delete all of this, and again, if this is confusing to you, delete it. Delete it or hide it. Right click and then you can go hide, and then it kind of gets rid of it out of the way. But so don't use it until you're ready, right? So I'm a big believer in that. Again, if it doesn't make sense, don't confuse yourself with it. Start with the promotion plans and just get used to saying, okay, here's my main goal for the quarter. Here's the goal for the month. It's going to feed that goal for the quarter. Here's the goal for the week. That's going to feed the goal for the month. That's going to feed the goal for the quarter. And then every week without fail. Here's what worked and what didn't, and here's what I'm going to do next based on that. And you have a little mini journal, and then you adjust your plan accordingly. And then pretty quickly you start seeing momentum. You're going to start having all sorts of results that you never thought were even possible because of how many times you are touching this plan and how many times you are measuring your way to success. And then when you're ready, if that's all you're doing right now, it's perfect. It's awesome. It's going to be huge progress. When you're ready, when you're comfortable, move into the activities and you start saying, okay, here's how I'm going to achieve the thing that I want to achieve. And then you can measure against, did I follow my plan or did the team follow the plan? So that's how this works. Now, for myself personally, with MeasurementMarketing.io, I handle some of this for some of our products, and I have some of my team handle this for some of the products. And they actually go through and set that up. So this is how this whole thing comes through. This is what makes this so effective. Just that concept that you can actually delegate this to team members as well. I would always start with yourself first because you got to make sure you understand it, but you can delegate it to the team and have them help you out with this as well, depending on the size of your company. So lots of different options. And again, we are here for you if you have any questions on it. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, how do I get my copy? So this is where it is. So you're going to go to measure.tips/boss planner. So measure.tips/boss planner, and that will take you to a spot where you can actually go and get it. So is here because I know Vince from our little editing team is zooming in on this. So measure.tips/boss planner is where you go to get that, and then it'll automatically take you to it so you can get it up and running. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So what was your one thing? Hopefully there was a bunch. Hopefully it was just, check out our WIN courses, measure.tips/courses, all sorts of ways to measure this stuff from analytics and Tag Manager and Data Studio and building dashboards and everything else. Lots of stuff back there to take a look at. Also, you've got Measurement Marketing Academy. If you have a team, this is definitely the one you want to use. And this will also include a lot of the measurement stuff that we're talking about in the workshops like this. So you can get that as well. You have access to instructors, of course. And speaking of Academy members, every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, there is office hours, members Q&A. So look forward to seeing you on those calls, part of the Measurement Marketing Academy. So for those of you who are members, thank you. And looking forward to chatting with you on the next office hours. And with that, let's go ahead and bring it to a close. Next week's topic, quick FYI, is another strategy session. You know what? I totally didn't change the slide. So let me go do that real quick. This is why I love doing these live, because I'm like, oh, got to fix that. So next week's topic is actually how to deal with offline conversions and other difficult to measure behaviors. So watch through the magic. You know, it's not quite the exact font, but there you go. You get the idea. So how to deal with offline conversions and other difficult measure behaviors is coming up. And of course, if you want to see that workshop, now that particular one will not be made public. So if you do want to see access to it, it is currently free to join Workshop Wednesday. So be a part of that. Measure.tips/WW. You get access to each workshop each week, and then it'll just send you an email and says, hey, here's what the latest workshop is. You can watch it if you want. If you don't, wait till the next week till it gets replaced out with the next workshop. But it is currently free to join, so take advantage while you can. And then we can bring it to a final close. You've just watched Strategy Session, Planning the Perfect Marketing Promotion. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.